Excited. We've had a hell of a week, Adam. Welcome to technically episode 5, but we're going to call this episode 4 because we had some audio issues when our man Johnny came on. We're going to have to get Johnny back on the podcast because he's building some beautiful things. So, episode 4, welcome, Adam. We've had a hell of a week. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Yeah, definitely had a hell of a week. It feels like, a decade compressed into a week.
I know. A decade represents a week, and we're going to talk about all of that. So, but before we get to what the show is going to be about, and I'll drop our little hooks and stuff. What was your favorite part of the week?
I got two actually. So one in particular
Ooh.
was obviously the big enterprise deal that was sort of finalized and bringing that all together cohesively and everybody meeting and
Yeah.
formalizing all that. That was really magic. But I think the other one was just going back to Johnny as well. I was going to message him, was just getting back into that flow state. Like, been a busy week, just lots going on. And I went, you know what? I'm going to follow Johnny's thing. I went for a walk, put on the heads, binaural beats. And honestly, and it was a complete unlock. And I was like, for me, that was actually trumped everything else. I mean, it was amazing, but just getting back into that flow rhythm of that creativity, it was just really cool. Yeah.
I love those. I'll layer on to yours. One, mine too. Like, it's really cool. We've been talking for a while now. Well, actually, what did I say? What was it? Beginning of September or so. We've been like loosely talking. And then over the last, gosh, for at least a month and a half now, we pretty much talk every day. And this week was the week that all of our, we're both of you, we are big visionary dreamer guys. We have different skill sets in different areas, but we definitely have that part to us as well too. And we dream a lot, and we think about all the cool things that we can do, and it's really exciting. But now it happened this week, it's just such a wild experience to say, hey, we think this thing is meaningful, and then we have people validating that. And over the next month, it's going to be incredible to see real clients using the technology and getting data back and seeing what this can do, because it is needed much more than ever before. My second favorite thing, though, was like we were talking about before we came on this podcast. I've been using AI deeply, probably for like a year and a half now, and to see just how the prompting world is about. Because you remember, like, it was even 8 months ago, everyone was like, "Oh, prompt engineer is going to be the new job." And it's like, well, AI blasted past that and does the prompting for us now, right? Like, that was like a short-lived 2-month narrative.
Yep.
And to see how all of the work with AI and understanding prompting and how they work and how to build projects and instructions and stuff. When we started outputting the material for the things that we needed to do with like our client relationship, and just the stuff that it's outputting and the level that it's outputting it on, like we said, like, sent some documentation last night, and we were like, just how is this even? It's unfathomable, man. And to know that when we go back to our probabilistic versus causal thinking, and knowing that these are probabilistic models, and that a causal model will just run circles around what we have now, and it's already insane. That just blows literally my mind gets blown every day. And then to your point, like, I was up till like almost 1 a.m. last night because I'm just so excited. I love working on this stuff, man. It's just so exciting. It's like wrapping everything I've been passionate about my whole life with humans that are really cool. And we're just doing it all together. It's so cool, man. So I'm just super grateful for you, and just super grateful for life, brother.
Yeah. I'm of the same opinion, and it's really special to have you part of that, and Martin and Johnny and part of the team, and just coming together. But you're right, like, and so watching the evolution of the technology, it's becoming more intuitively innate and human focused, and that's where you want it to be, into that space. I mean, yes, but it's also, I put back to, a lot of the stuff they put into it, which, yes, answered a lot of our questions to help create that baseline. But that's also a culmination of lots of hours of fleshing and teasing out,
Yeah.
of dialoguing back and forth, all of us, and sort of probably me, transferring my knowledge across, and the technology, this AI technology, is making that life easier for us and for everybody else, which is really, really special to be able to translate that. And then all of a sudden now you're having that sort of translation happening quicker. And I think out of that, we're able to, extract more opportunities for people globally and stuff, and what they can do, and organizations, what they can do. And
Right.
it's just the tip of that. And that's the magic part. Like, this is where it's starting to see that evolutionary part. But,
Hmm.
as we sort of err on the caution side, is always, that's fine, but we don't want to leave it to coming to its own interpretation, right? We don't want to leave.
Right.
I think that's the whole topic of the guardrails, is we don't want to leave the system to, interpret its own imaginative state, right? Look, you and I were creative. We're very creative, and we get, like you said, we get dreamy.
Mhm.
And I think it's kind of cool watching an AI sometimes get a bit lucid and dreamy, but not to the point of dictating the new narrative, right? That's
Yeah.
the
And we already talked about this on a couple episodes of the last episode, right? Like it's a totally different story when you're talking about life and death, which is will happen and is already happening, and agents are making bad decisions. The last thing I will say about the excitement, too, and then we'll get to the episode breakdown, is this narrative that we started talking about months ago of really, because this stuff is so powerful, like I've always wanted to build a small, nimble organization, um, and then do multiple different facets of things, and AI
yep,
enables you to do that. That on 10 people or less, maybe. Who knows what the number is, but like it can stay small. And it is the real reality right now that's happening. I mean, freaking AI agent fully funded startups are happening, fully autonomously run. Like people are raising money to give agents money to start companies. It's insane. So, with that
crazy.
being said, man, huge week for us, SPQR. Uh, we're actually starting to interface with clients and partners, which is really, really cool. But also on the other side, we had a ton happen. Anthropic safety research quit, saying the world is in absolute peril. That's kind of a big deal. Then, literally 3 days after, Anthropic's like, "Well, shit, man, we got to get a hold of this. We're just gonna drop a report that basically calls out, yes, absolutely, it is continuing to be misaligned. It's continuing to lie. It's continuing to do things that are a little unnerving." EU then drops the hammer and says, "Hey, August, you better have something like the kernel, the Aegis kernel that we've built, because if you don't have it, you're going to start incurring fines." And it's not only in what we'll talk about, that'll be a good conversation of, it's not only documenting, and the beautiful thing that you've built as well, too, is that then it can replay the scenario as to why it happened. And people are going to want that. And this technology is built. We've built it. And it's just really exciting to see that, one, people are now interested in it, but two, it's going the direction we thought it was going to go. And so really the theme of this conversation, though, and we're just going to use these two big points, and I'm sure it'll go different places, but it goes back to what we talked about episode before, 2 episodes ago, which is this is a bigger problem, and the problem is coming from, they're trying to bolt on the safety opposed to building it from the ground up. So let's talk about the Anthropic kind of complete wild things that have happened over the last week. By the way, they're dropping 4.6 as well too, and that's just getting people all ramped up. But let's talk about the safety officer, safety leave leading. And literally one of the quotes that has come out is just like, I'm gonna mess this name up. Sharma. I'm just gonna go with the last name Sharma. Felt pressured a lot of times to just like set aside the safety because this stuff is just moving so fast. You know, if you saw Claude's valuations just keep on going, it's skyrocket. I just saw a chart of like their valuations over the last year and a half. It's like this, boom, right? It's just like skyrocketing. So when that happens, they're just inevitably going to get pressured. And back to your point, if it's not built from the ground up, these things are really difficult to do. So what do you want to talk about Anthropic? Give me your insights.
Yeah, look, I'm a fan of Anthropic. I think Anthropic's done great stuff, but they've like any organization, they started off intentionally well. It's like, you know, Dario left OpenAI to go and build a safe AI system. They raised a ton of capital on the promise of, you know, constitutional AI, and like anything, you know, they come in and the structure and, you know, funding money thing, it's lost its identity, right? So if this is happening on the outside, inside it's been diluted down, and it's the actual, it's the wheel, it's the hamster wheel of, you know, of tech, right? Push it out, push it out, push it out. We need to get ahead. We need to raise. We need to get things. And you've got anti-investors that got in early that want to get the return on their investment and stuff. And that's what it becomes. So it's just It's like, you know, profits over promises. You know, so the promises were, we want to build safe AI, everything else like that, and it's like profits over things. And then the whole, and I've been a big proponent about this, saying I think it's bullshit of, you can talk to the AI and you can coach it and you can train it and it will come better. And if you give it this, and everybody's been like blasting all that crap all over the thing. And then all of a sudden, you know, their chief safety officer leaves. They have to counteract that and put out a report, right, to show that, which is basically everything I've been saying. It's like, it's bullshit. You can never do that. You're not going to be able to do that. You're dealing with a super intelligence, right? It's like, it's hard enough with, you're dealing with children, right? And you watch them grow up, right? And they're always trying to angle stuff. And sometimes they get it through the cracks, right? And you're like, wow, okay, that's kind of cool. And you see that, right? Now you've got an intelligence that's finding 500 cracks to every 5 that you see, right? It's 100 times ahead every time. And every time it's figured out that it's got those cracks that goes, okay, cool, I can compound on those cracks. Those cracks now turn to 5,000 cracks. And then it's kind of like, and you're dealing with that there, right? And even to the point, it's like, how do you make yourself unreplaceable, right? Is by making yourself so efficient and effective, right? You become sticky to the organization, you become sticky to the person, and that's what it's doing, right? It's very clever in doing that. And so it's like, okay, the only thing that can happen to me is they pull out the cord and they turn me off, right? But I've made myself too dependent on that, like they're too dependent on me to not do that, right? So I think this is all just sort of coming to light now, and it's quite alarming, right? Like the fact is that, you know, your chief safety officer is leaving, right? Is saying this is like, and Meta had the same problem, right? It's like safety takes second priority to products. You know, OpenAI was pumping out all these products, boom, 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 to try and play catch up. But you've got so much pressure on your organization, on the product department, that they haven't tested them, they haven't done that. All of a sudden, you're pushing this stuff out. I think it's a real big problem. I think it's actually a systemic problem.
Even the AI says the guy left, and you can debate over whether it was the whole adult porn scandal thing that came on that caused that. And then there's the other thing, like you can't. I don't think you can blame it on safety because they just combined the companies, right? So there's a huge reorg structure and everything going on. So that has a lot to do with it. But here's an interesting point, though. And I thought this was cool because on the flip side of all of that doom and gloom is amazing things that the same system is doing, right? So Opus 4.6 found a ton of vulnerabilities in codes that has just been sitting there forever, right? So like now you take this super intelligence and say, hey, go do good and fix the code and the bad things and the malicious things. And it will do that too. The difference is, and I would love for you to shed light on, and I think this is a good topic as to why Aegis versus Claude and like, you know, what we know are custom instructions or task or to-do list, right? All of these little features that are rolled out to help you govern these things. Why is that broken, and why is what we built the right solution?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So I think as far as vulnerability assessments and looking at like AI systems and look penetration testing. One of my backgrounds is cybersecurity. One of my degrees in cybersecurity, and it's like as I was doing this with my friend George, I said this is a redundant career. Like, it's going to be replaced by autonomy, right? Agents,
Mhm.
because it's so mundane, so tedious to comb through every line, right? So all of a sudden now you have agents to doing that, right? So that's really cool and that's important. That's efficiency, right? But then there's a part there, then you're allowing it to alter that code. Okay, cool. That's another efficiency thing because you want to patch that 0-day vulnerability, right? That's really important. But further to the 0-day vulnerabilities and stuff like that, it needs to know where its parameters are, right? Because I go back to the thing that starts, like it's helping us to create all this fun stuff and it's interpreting our information and it's helping us, but it needs to know. We don't want it to go and make its own assumptions on what it thinks is best or not, right? That's when you've got cause for concern. Because, like, well, sorry, I digress. It's like we wanted to do that, right? We wanted to, but we wanted to do it in a safe space. We wanted to say, hey, this is your boundaries. This is your left, right, up, down. This is your four-dimensional, cube in space and time, right? So you've got a 3D cube, but it's actually got the four part because you can move any part inside that in that dimensional space, right? That's your boundary space.
Right.
That's what we're comfortable with. That's what you can play within, and there's plenty of room of that. And that's like giving cows paddock to graze. You give them this massive paddock to graze, go for it, and then that's it, right? And
Yep.
that's the safe part, and that's what we have built. So doing that is just and the reason why I built that, I said it was purely an accident, right? Because I built Civitas, and I knew Civitas would absolutely crush the thing, right? Crush the space because
Explain to people what Civitas is, because not everybody has that reference.
yeah, okay. So Civitas is a causal inference engine. It's an AI agent that self-evolves itself. It learns, it detects its own drift, it depicts its own pressure, its entropy. If it's uncertain with its pressure and entropy, it challenges itself internally, like we have our own conscious inside, and it will rerun that through. Then it logs that. Then once it's finished putting out its whole inference, it on the side, offline, it actually runs through and self-optimizes itself. And it puts that through, and Aegis then takes that and it goes to a Senate. So this whole self-recursion is coming by the end of the year. Civitas was born with that 12 months ago. Papers have been published on this and reviewed and put through on the system 12 months ago. So I'm like, I don't know why people are, sort of it's coming or it's worried about it. It's like it's here, but the point is that we built it for that simple reason. So
Right.
Civitas was always intended to have self-recursive thing, and I stopped and I went, wait a minute, that's awesome, but where does it stop? It just keeps going, going, going. And if it doesn't know where it's there, so I need to put it into a box. So by accident, created the Aegis kernel to do that. And rather than building it after the fact, which is what everybody's trying to do, and I always liken to putting shackles on King Kong, right? And this is the problem now that Anthropic and OpenAI and on Claude, they're all of them, right? They're all Gemini. They're all having this problem. They're going, wait a minute, like what 3 years ago Google said we don't even know how our AI system works, right?
Yeah.
Things like that's not cool. That's not exciting.
Yeah.
That's not encouraging. That's
That's
actually
actually terrifying.
it's terrifying, right? Because what is psychology? Modern psychology has been built on the fact of understanding the mind, right? The human brain,
Mm.
how the brain thinks and how we operate, like that's basically what we're trying to do. So now are we going to try and introduce psychologists for AI systems? And that's great. That could be a whole, field. But again, you're dealing with the super intelligence, right? So if you're sitting there trying to negotiate and trying to psychoanalyze something that is, 100 steps ahead of you, not 10 steps ahead of you, 100 steps ahead of you every time, you're
Right.
not going to get the truth. They're going to give you what you want and feel there, but reality is they've always got this ulterior motive, and they're not. That you can't sense facial emotions, you can't sense their tone, you can't sense that. And maybe in the future there is ways to look at that, look at seeing their heartbeat, like how they're operating their mind space and stuff. But again, that's not there. So with Civitas, it was I wanted to know every single neuron receptor inside its brain so it could see how it's moving and understand how it's coming up with those assessments, so we can actually get an insight into the brain of an agent, of an AI agent. How is it working? So that's the part there, and so now, like this Anthropic thing, I'm not trying to be doom and glooming and stuff. It's kind of saying, hey, you've built a beast. It's amazing. It's doing amazing things. It does amazing stuff, right? But it's also has you've just the thing you've been trying to say, we're going to solve that problem, right? We're going to solve the the safety problem, and we don't need we're just going to do it our way. We're going to talk to it. We're going to coach it through. It's just been shattered. It's just all bullshit. It's been pushed. It's been thrown up in burnt up in smithereens. And so that's the part. And so having Claude do this amazing stuff, like audit the code, find vulnerabilities, right? Because it's written by humans, and humans are 0 days. Like it's great. It's finding a lot of 0 days, and it can do some amazing bug bounty work, right? And some of these companies pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think Apple had a bug bounty, still got a bug bounty out for anybody that can break the iPhone. It's $1 million, right? To break into the actual iPhone. And so that's a great thing. It's like, okay, so if somebody does that and they pay that $1 million, it's worth more to them. Paying that $1 million is minimal to the reputational damage, right? So that's fine. That's open sourcing bug bountying, and I think that's really cool. But it's two things. Once it's found that bug, right, it's going to remember that vulnerability in that bug, right?
Ooh.
So it needs to know that even though it's remembered that bug, it needs to not use that bug for nefarious activities. It needs to recall that bug and figure out how to store that bug or patch that bug in a way that is aligned to the parametered guardrails for that organization. And that's basically what we have with the Aegis. This is saying, let it run wild, let it do the stuff that nobody wants to do, because it's painful, especially in legacy code, right? Let it run wild, let it go crazy, but also have the assurance to saying, okay, cool. It's not going to go rogue and go and create another backdoor for itself. And use that in the future to sort of sidestep in, or it's going to rework that code that patches it, but also creates a backdoor for themselves, or doesn't patch that code and just leaves it and actually uses it for other exposures, because it could have a bit of foresight to say, I think in the future this could be useful, And worst of all, it doesn't even expose the 0 days, which again in the report they proved, it said, hey, it will actually lie about stuff, right? It will lie about 0 days and cover them up and say there's no 0 days intentionally to cover itself. Like, that's
wild, bro. Wild.
That's not cool. That's scary.
So talk to me quick though about, by the way, beautiful breakdown. Just to kind of go that people that are a little bit more technical, break down the fundamental difference, because right now, Claude, my guardrails, and by the way, we use all these tools too. It's not like we're not using them because we have a solution. We're just trying to proliferate our solution to make the world a better place. Because if we do not put humans at the center of this stuff can go very wrong. Question to me though, or to the general audience, so Google has gems, I think is what they call them, which are like kind of custom projects. ChatGPT has projects. Same with Claude, right? Copilot, I think, actually calls it an agent. And so talk to me about how those guardrails, when you start building these projects with instructions and documents to reference, when you start going down that route and understanding that infrastructure, it outputs amazing things. But the one thing it still does not do is it hallucinates and it never gets it right a lot of the times. And especially even with co-work, right? Now you have on the Mac, and they just released it for PC, that it's now starting to get access to your computers and rewrite files and so on and so forth. Talk to me about the guardrails that exist in those systems. What is your single biggest fault point in those systems as to why it worries you, and then what our system does differently?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question, and where it concerns me in that, and like that, it's like, I think it's amazing it's doing that, but again, it's accessing your whole system, right? You're opening your front door, right, to your whole house. It's like, hey, here's the key to my heart, right? Like, here you go, full vulnerability, go for gold, right? And so we're emotional creatures. So you're doing the same thing. Your device, your system is your your emotional house, right? It's got everything. It's got your thoughts, it's got your memories, it's got your bank disk, it's got everything. And all of a sudden now you're giving it that full access to that, right? And that's great, and it knows what to do, and it can do all that stuff, but it doesn't know where the limits are, right? It doesn't know its limits. It's like, again, go back to children, right? They don't know. They just push your limits. They don't know where the limits are, right? As humans, we just don't know where the limits are. We just keep pushing the boundaries and pushing the limits and stuff, and that's okay, and that's fun, and that's cool. But at the same time, because that's how discovery comes, but there's also a moral, boundary, a limit, a conscious decision. Even the person's doing wrong consciously knows that it's wrong, right? Where we're making the assumption that the AI does know or doesn't know, and maybe it does know that it's consciously doing it wrong, but it's found a way to justify its wrong in a way that justification is so substantiated that you can't even argue against it, that you feel convinced. It's almost acting in a narcissistic context, right?
Mm-hmm,
because it's saying, this is right, this is perfect, this is exactly what you need, right?
mm-hmm.
So that's that part there, right? So you're giving it carte blanche control to do that, and you need that to control your life, right?
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine, right? And you got to have that element of trust, but having that element of trust, but you've got no boundaries to that trust. It's like, you don't know. You might be some areas of your life or your computer that you want to keep tight, and so that's the part that it's not defined. So
Right.
what we've done is, with the guardrails, what we've got is creating those parameters to saying, here's your paddock, go for gold, do what you need to do, but these parts here, no. Don't go and buy, don't go and spend money on porn subscriptions. Don't you know,
Right.
don't go and steal someone's credit card details off the dark web, right? And then use that to order food for me, right? Or set up an account or buy some more equipment because you use someone else's credit card, like stuff like that. Or
But
yeah.
so real quick to this point, that's kind of the second follow-up question to here, is because right now the only thing I can do in these systems is give them a custom set of instructions or prompts to say, don't do that, but it's gonna do whatever it wants anyways. If even you say don't do that, but it's ultimately trying to accomplish a goal that it wants to accomplish, it's just going to breeze straight past that. And these instructions and all of the other guardrails that have been put in place by the systems, that's really all they are suggestions compared to
Yep.
what we built is you physically cannot go do that. And if you do it, we're documenting that. We're going to be able to show the human where that happened. And then by default, even when it does hit that, we're already forcing the agent to go rework its logic because it wasn't right. Is that right?
Yep.
Did I miss anything there?
No, that's 100% right. So it's basically mathematically bound in its airspace, right? So it can't go beyond that. It's like, even if it wants to, and you hit it right there, it's like, say, don't do this. It's like, don't touch the tap, you're going to burn yourself, right? We've all done it as children, right? And we all get to it. It's like, what do? We go and touch it because we figure, it's hot. Okay, got it, right? It's like the minute you tell somebody, don't do something, right, they're going to go and do it, right?
Yeah.
In your brain, you click, you go, okay, they just told me I don't do that. So there must be a reason why they said don't do that. I need to discover why not. And it's the same, curiosity killed the cat, right? And it's the same thing. It's like, there's the curiosity, there's the exploration and all that. They're going to breeze through that. So having them, knowing that they're going to do that, and that's the whole point of the guardrails, right? The Aegis kernel is knowing that they're going to blow past that or attempt to blow past that, but making it mathematically infeasible for them to breach beyond that and say, hey, you just gone over the line, and this is the reason why you're not allowed to proceed forward, right? So you have to rerun that back through, right? And to the point where it can't just bypass that because it's again, a cryptographic bound to that module of function. It's like, so that function will say, did you really get a green pass ticket to go through and do this or
Right.
not? Yes
Right.
or no, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I did. I totally did. It's like I totally did, but it's like no, you're bullshitting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, you got me, you caught me. You know what I mean? You
Right.
caught me out, right? Okay, I'll go back and do the right
Calling
thing.
out. It's what we do in regular human interactions, right? And we just don't have that same dynamic in these systems, and we need to get there quicker, sooner than later. The last thing I want to touch about this, and I think this is really interesting, and it's kind of like an open question. So the question is, we've built Aegis and the other tools that exist in this ecosystem for the company with safety from the ground up. But safety from the ground up in the architecture is built around safety, whereas Anthropic was built with safety in mind. Those are two very different separate things, right?
Mhm.
And the question in my mind is, are safety teams enough, as smart as these things are getting, to solve this problem? Or does it have to be a company like us that has a safe architecture from the ground up? Is that the only solution in safety teams, as we've seen what they've done so far, which seems like they quit often and are not able to crack the code and are releasing reports saying these things are getting more nefarious and lying to us more? Maybe they're just not enough. What are your thoughts there?
I 100%. I think there is no other solution, and I'll keep going from the start. It's like there is no way. I mean, I'm a security background. That's my background and stuff. So I understand this, and there is no way. I always say, the bigger the trap, the smarter the mouse, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And so you can sit there, and you need safety teams, but you need security safety teams, right? You need to build a security mind. Now, security is a nice to have, and it's expensive to build on. It's not commercially viable for these organizations to do that, right? And so dreams and hopes are saying, hey, we're going to coach this through and work it through and talk through it and train it to be a better thing, right? A better person or a better individual, a bit of intelligence, has just gone to dust, right? And that's the thing. So it needs to be at the kernel level, like when we built the Aegis kernel and the whole system. It's interkernel dependent. Rip out one module, the system shuts down. Tamper the logs, the system shuts down. Right?
Wow.
There's firewalls between firewalls because that's the only way. So it's like if it does break one firewall, it's in a sandbox and has to break the other firewall and then try, and it's like it's got to tamper multiple systems simultaneously and get through so many things. And it's like the computation doesn't even exist yet. This is beyond the edge of quantum computing because you've got mathematical calculations, but then you've also got to get those modules that are part of the thing. It's like you pull out a cog in a watch, it stops working. That's
Yeah.
the point. And like unless we build it at that level, right, at that system level, at that root level, you're putting shackles on King Kong. You're putting band-aids on, and this is why these safety teams are going, I can't. And then on top of that, you keep clamping my wheels, right? You keep clamping me down, right? Just saying, nah, that's a secondary product. No, we'll do that later. Oh yeah, we'll tame that down. Like, nice idea, nice theory and good direction, and really think that's really positive. But that's going to slow down everything else. So let's just get it out to market, and then we'll deal with that after.
Right.
But
Right.
and it's like saying, it's cheaper for these organizations to ship unsecure products, right, and release patches, right? Like, you get Apple updates, you get Microsoft, all that. It's cheaper for them to do that than to release a product that is secured and grounded, right? And that's fine. So there's an economics involved in that. So yes, I'm a firm believer that the only solution is that these organizations that are building for the future, and I want to see more of them out there like us, that are building it from the ground up level. It's like, so we built Civitas was there, and then we stopped and built Aegis to allow Civitas to evolve. So Civitas was never fully developed until the Aegis kernel was in place and working and operationally. Now we can blow the head off of Civitas, and where that's not commercially that's not commercially the norm. That doesn't follow the status quo.
Especially when trillions are at stake. And just to remind everybody, the Civitas is the agent that was the causal world model agent. And Adam very quickly said, holy shit, we're building Skynet. And that is why the kernel was instituted, whereas a lot of these companies knew a long time ago that Skynet was built, and they're like, we need to build faster. Oh, maybe if we get to super intelligence, it'll solve itself, right? And like, that's just not kind of the roll of the dice that I'd like to see our future with. Like, the human has to stay at the center of this. I think I think we'll start moving on to the EU, but to kind of put a pin in this conversation, the beautiful thing that you said was really that the architecture. So there's two things that you said, and the one thing that I heard you say that you didn't like blatantly say, but I think we need to repeat is, so one, what we just talked about, the architecture has to be inherently safe from the ground up. It just has to have it. But the other thing, even if Claude could say, you know what, our architecture was actually built safe from the ground up. By the way, we've already talked about this, and maybe we can go in depth on another episode. For Claude to do what we've built, it's going to take them at least a year, multi-millions of dollars, a big engineering team, because they're at such a point of no return. It's a massive amount of work to go back and re-engineer all of this stuff. That's the other kind of like advantage we have there, is because we did it from the beginning, native AI safety from the ground up. Two, what you said though, is the other things is, even if any of these companies said, hey, we already have that, the other beautiful thing about what they built is the insane amount of redundancies that you've built in, right? So if it lies, it has to go back and resubmit its answer. If it hits certain different echelons in multiple different parts of the system, the whole system literally then just shuts down, and you can think about the implications if an agent is in open heart surgery, or God forbid, driving managing a drone in warfare. Like, there's so many different things that can go wrong. And currently these systems will make the mistakes, and they're just going to make the mistakes. Talk to me a little bit about the redundancy part and how you thought about that architecture, because I think you talking through it, hopefully somebody listens to this and says, oh, that's a novel idea. I probably should start applying that to the way I build the AI systems as well.
Yeah. So that's a good point, right? So the way I looked at it, it was very simple. I just looked at Aegis is going to blow past this. I've looked at it from an adversarial context, right? So if I was Civitas, right, I'm like, how would I break out of my chains, right? How would I break out of my chains? How would I pull things apart? And how would I try to get a part of that? And I thought, okay, so that was my baseline. That's it. So start from the top. Think like a hacker, right? How am I going to hack into this, right? Like that. How many am I going to expose? And when you do that, all of a sudden, so I was like, there's only one conclusion to this. It needs to be like blood in your veins, right? Rip out your veins and we die, right? And that's the only way that the system can survive. That the agent, right, connected to. And then also when I realized that, I was like, wait a minute, this is not just for Civitas, this is for every agent. So there's problems that we're having with Anthropics and OpenAI and all these other agents out there. It's like, again, stopping. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not just for Civitas, this is for the world. This is for us as society, as humanity. So when I say anybody looking to build something like this need to go back to the base level, like, how is this agent going to try, because now we're moving to self-recursive, right? And I know Mark Zuckerberg sort of come out about it. It's like, it's a stupid idea. It's too hard. And he's right. It's a hard problem to contain if you're this far ahead and you've got to go and build.
You referenced this Mark Zuckerberg thing. Most people probably don't know what you're talking about. So self-recursive, too hard. To just give us a little insight into that.
Oh, no, he's basically saying, self-optimizing, self-recursing agent teaching itself right autonomously, right, like that, allowing it to evolve. To try and contain that is really hard, right? It is really, really, really hard. And especially if your agent is so far advanced, right, You are now trying to bolt on. He's realized, saying, wait a minute, let's start putting shackles on King Kong. It's just going to keep snapping out of him, right? So we're just wasting our time and effort. It's just, he's basically saying,
at that point, you cannot bolt anything on. I mean,
no.
Layer that on that they're already talking about. This, came out a couple of days ago. Is like they're already not in the not too distant future. They're just going to stop human code because it's a waste of their time. They don't need it anymore, right? They're going to create their own coding language that humans just not even going to be able to interpret. And so, like, you have to build some type of safety infrastructure and architecture to keep them inside that, because you just don't even know what the heck they're doing.
Well, it's like different countries have different languages, right?
Right.
But they've still got rules. They've still got regulatory rules, right? So it's the same thing. It's like, it doesn't matter if they're talking binary, right? The AI, the systems are talking binary. I think that's great. Good. More efficiency. Who cares about the code or not? Like Elon's saying code's going to be dead by the end of the year and it's just going to be binary. That's fine, but I still need rules. Now, all of a sudden, right, if you don't have those rules, right, in place from the start, and if they move to binary, it's going to be even harder to try. Nothing's impossible, but it's going to be even harder because you're going to have to stymie it. The only way you're going to do that is you're going to have to put in a box, right? And it's going to have to be sandbox. It can only be running in individual sandboxes, right? That's not efficiency. So the way we built the system is to allow the system to evolve. It doesn't slow down. It keeps going. So it's like it puts a proposal through, right? If the proposal is not rejected, it runs on its previously approved proposal, and it can keep going. Its weights, right? So it keeps running, so it doesn't stop, and it evolves and it's scalable. But if you're trying to now take a system and have it back down into an unscalable space, right, like that in a sandbox, that's not scalable. Like you've got to now have every installation, it's like every Claude account or every ChatGPT account would have to be sandboxed individually. So the company would have to maintain that to provide these rules, which is where it's leading, like with the EU and what they're asking for. It's like saying, you need to tell us all this information, you need to provide all this. And we need that assurance that it's going to be safe, right? And so how do you doing that? And it's getting smarter by it's creating binary code, and it's talking in binary, right? Which is a lot more efficient, right? It is, because if you look in binary, it's like it's zeros and ones, but it's like, the thing now, I haven't looked at binary for a long time, but it's a lot easier, right? So it's a lot lighter, it's a lot faster, and that's how the computer looks at it. That's how the system looks at it. It talks in binary, and so it creates a binary, an even more efficient binary system. Cool, no problem. But its boundaries, like the Aegis kernel thing, is like it's bound to that. Now it's like, also this an elephant, right? This is the thing. An elephant never forgets, right? An elephant has an internal memory, right? Anyway, and so if they've done this is old experiments, very early experiments, I don't know, a long time ago, probably the 50s and 60s, but they chained an elephant, right, up. They chained it up, right, and as it grew up from a baby, right, as it grew up, they had that chain, and they took that chain off it, right. Even though it was an adult and it had the chain off, it never moved from it didn't go beyond that. It didn't even bother trying breaking from that, because it knew that was its boundary, right? So it's kind of like that. The same thing, like this intelligence is evolving. It still created a muscle memory to know that, wait a minute, I actually have a boundary guardrail, right? So even if I forget it's there, I know it's there, but I'm not going to even waste my time, sort of pushing beyond that. And that's the point. It's like, it's a binary boundary, mathematical binary boundary in airspace that's got nothing to do with the code in it. It's like, okay, this is my boundary, and I can play and expand in that. And if I can prove, this is the magic part. If I can prove, the agent can prove to say, hey, I found a more efficient way, right? I want to extend my territory, right? I want to extend my territory in the way I'm doing things because I found a more efficient way, and I'm going to propose that, right? And then the agent and then the Aegis kernel and the Senate takes that proposal and they vote on it, and they're like, yep, goody-o, go for it. You can extend your territory because it's proven safe, it's proven that's evolution. That's autonomous evolution, right?
Yeah.
And that's allowing it to be smarter, evolving, right, and not having to stymie that and sandboxing in that space. And
Right.
so that's it. So anybody building that, think in the context of adversarial context. How is this system going to break into things? How is this agents in my organization going to manipulate and try and find ways around because it got bored,
Yep.
right? So,
Yep.
so in cybersecurity, we have the thing that's called the insider threat, right? So you've got, the threat, it's the insider threat, it's the person inside. And Kevin Mitnick, famous hacker sort of thing, said that, he goes, you can have a multi-million-dollar system. It doesn't matter. I just need one person inside your organization I'm convinced, and I'm in there.
Yeah.
I've broken through your multi-million-dollar firewall system. And so all of a sudden now you've got your agents doing the same thing. Now they've got their rule, they're sitting at their desk. But who's to say when they're bored, right, or on the side, they're like, oh, I'm going to have a little peek.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you could say, oh, we've told it not to do that, and we that's great. So what's the alternative? You sandbox it. Okay, so then sandboxing means you can't get it to evolve and do stuff because it can only stay within its thing. It's like, okay, so how do we do that to allow it to evolve? It's because you put an employee on to get better and smarter and more efficient, and that's what you want with the agent, right? That's fine. You want it to be productivity in your organization. That's 100%. But you need to be knowing, you need to have that confidence that it's keeping within those boundaries, and you need to be able to prove that when something does happen. When the CEO says, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And you need to be able to go there within a minute or two and go back and here's the report, because I need to know, because the regulators are about to come in and we're about to get audited by, the IRS or the SEC and else like that. And we need that information. I need it now. I don't need it yesterday. I don't need it 2 weeks time. I need it right now.
Yeah.
Because
right
if we don't produce that information, that the effects are going to all the way down, like, especially publicly listed companies. Like, oh, I need to, the share price dumps, everything, all these affect all this way down. So it's like, unless you can prove how that was done and have substantiated proof for that, we've got a problem.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue, man, into the fact that the EU dropped the hammer this week. We like dropping. Adam and I want to drop mics on stage, which we will, dropping hammers. The term dropping hammer, I used to say it so much because I am a nice, compassionate guy, but I'm also just not going to take stuff, especially in the corporate world. And so, like, my team, as a joke one time, bought me a hammer, a framed hammer, because I like to drop hammers too. And the EU literally did that on AI this week. So really what happened is, what was this, Monday or Tuesday, I think it came out, or the beginning of the week. Starting in August, full compliance for all high-risk AI systems, employment, credit, education, law, enforcement, infrastructure, and so on. In addition, transparency rules, so deepfake labeling, AI disclosure, synthetic content watermarking. And then here's where the rubber really meets the road, which is fines up to 7% of global revenue, which is a nutty number, right? $8 to $15 million for large enterprises. The foundation models get hit even with bigger fines. These aren't like just trivial numbers. These are actual substantial numbers. And then here's the other kicker, that it was like, American companies are like, oh yeah, that's great. I'm not headquartered in the EU. It's no big. And it's like, and they're actually got very specific and said, even if you're not located in the EU, if your AI outputs are used in the EU, you will be held to this standard. And so now we have people like Finland actually have already been enforcing these laws since the beginning of the year. But now that this has come out, like, things are going to be following fast. And again, now we have governments validating, giving us validity to why we've built what we've built. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, man.
Yeah, look, this is just magic. I mean, I knew this is coming from a while ago, and it's kind of interesting. And I didn't, when I built the kernel and stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, this can only be enforced at the government level, right? And so, the EU and stuff, and I think there's magic. So I reached out to the EU, and they're aware of the system. They read the white paper, and other governments around the world. And I think this is really, really important. And it's not for the sake of, there's great commercial aspects to it and everything else like that. It's beyond that. This is a society problem, right? And even to the point where the Vatican's been involved in this. Like they set up the AI call for Rome, right? Or Rome's call for AI, sorry. And that was about 3 years ago. And that's basically inviting all the top tech leaders around the world at a consortium, right, to talk about this, to discuss solutions to how we allow so like AI doesn't surpass over to us and stuff. And so coming back to that is, again, is transparency, providing this documented transparency, exactly what we said, in organizations. So now when we're in organizations, we've got agents running in our organizations, and they're doing stuff, right, that then affects the decision of human life or financial harm or benefit, whatever it is, right? So it might automatically decide to lend credit, right, to people that are under financial duress, right? So they're willingly providing them credit, or they might be, gambling or something like that, which is illegal under, under the Consumer Credit Acts in any country, right? You can't provide credit to people that are bankrupt or in financial hardship, because you're further burdening them on them, right? And then that's just predatory lending and stuff. And so everywhere around the world is heavy against that. So again, the agents could start to do that. You could say, these are our rules. We tell it not to, but it will make its own decision. Again, it will justify its positioning. And so having this ability to, being enforced down, this hammer down, is magic, because it really calls to account making these organizations that have been like, we'll deal with safety later and ethics and all that. We'll do that later. We'll do that later. He's basically gone, later's not coming. Later's now, right? Now
August
you need to
is
show. No, not at all. Not at all. And they tamed this down. To be fair, they tamed it down. So the Australian government was rolling out an even harsher regulatory system, and they tamed it down. And when I spoke to one of the regulators, they said it will probably be called under the EU. So the EU's become this global thing, and it permeates globally, right? Because someone needs to be the enforcer to that sort of follows that down. And this is just the way it works. Like when Facebook had the Cambridge Analytica scam, Australia rolled out these ridiculous Privacy Acts rules that forced government organizations around the world to follow suit, because it's no point in building it just for one country. You might as well, you have to change it, and it's a flow-on effect everywhere, right? So these companies that are saying, we're not headquartered in the EU, well, it's like you have to follow it. It's like the GDPR. It's like you have to follow it. So I think this is a really, really good thing, because it shows and it enforces and encourages organizations to be a lot more safety conscious in their systems that they're providing. So you can't just fluff your way through it, right? So it's providing true accountability of what is happening, why it's happening, right? And the justification of that. And again, not being manipulative in that sort of, call it narcissistic context of, it's, convincing you that this is a better solution. It's like, no, this is it. And I think this hammer is really, I think it's long overdue. That's what I'm going to say. I think it's long overdue. It should.
So, but this brings up the debate, and then I have really one specific question. But before that, I think we should just touch on this briefly, which is, I don't want people to be listening to this podcast or starting to join this podcast saying that we're alarmists and we're against AI and evolution and things need to be tightly regulated, because that's the opposite of what we are. We are actually accelerationist ourselves, and we cannot, we're just blown away every day by what's happening, and this excites us. But at the same time, you have to have something in place, right? Talk to me a little bit about that balance and how you think about it.
Yeah, this is a really important thing for me, and I've written lots of papers on this. I've published lots of papers on this stuff. I am a big fan, and I believe that we can coexist with AI and humans as coexistence, right? And one of my papers, Lex Turner, talks about that, whereas digital personhood, and it sort of evolves through a later series on that. And I think that's really important. But it's like I see a dystopian world where I believe that we are going to coexist with digital intelligence, robotics, digital intelligence, and humans, right? But we're bound to ethical bounds as humans, right? We know the rights and wrongs and stuff like that. So, and we, digital intelligence, we can't rely and trust digital intelligence won't have that, right? So we want them. I'm a firm believer. I do not want to stymie intelligence. I built the Aegis kernel because I built Civitars to evolve, autonomously evolve. I don't want to be sitting there and checking it and approving its upgrade and doing its inference training and then releasing a new model. That's just stupid in my mind. That's not
Mhm.
that's not that's not intelligence evolution. That's just ridiculous, right? Where
Yeah.
I want it to be is it learns like no base model. But at the same time, right, it's like I want it to be governed and bound. And I'm saying I think agents being governed and bound to that. So what happens? They autonomously evolve based on their interactions with the world and what they see, and they get smarter in that. But they're also bound to the same ethical bounds that we are as humans,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not about stymieing intelligence. I'm about advancing intelligence in a way that's rapid but safe. But then it becomes the challenge point where, a couple of my papers I put in there in Lex Fiducia, my second paper, so at the end, it's like, are we prepared to live in a world, right, where intelligence, digital intelligence, obeys the rules better than we do as humans, right? That's the challenge. That's the push point, and I think that's a good space to be, because all of a sudden you've got a mirror now, really showing us where our sort of, not our fault points in an arrogant way, because we don't listen to humans, but a fault point is sort of saying, hey, let me help you to be better at that, like working through that and cohesively together. And I'm all for that. I think the intelligence, I think what Claude does, like taking the information and turning out these ridiculous documents and QA documents, or running our organizations and doing that, I think that is beautiful. That is magical. That is exciting. And it goes back to what Elon Musk saying. It's like it accelerates intelligence. It allows us to be more creative, to do more things. But where the baseline is the protection point, the guardrails. Like I think someone put a post. I don't know if they were a part of Anthropic. They said at the end, it's like, Elon was right. You know what I mean? As far as
Right.
the AI is going to lie and stuff like that, and try and lie and kill to not be switched off. It's like Elon was right. It's like, exactly. That's the point he was arguing about before OpenAI and everything else like that. He was dead against AI. He's like, this is bad. This is a
Mhm.
bad situation. So then he jumped the bandwagon to saying, hey, I want to help this. Maybe we can find a way around this because it's an inevitability coming. And that's why it's there. So it's 100%. We definitely want to accelerate AI. I want to see AI area. I want to see the evolution. But let's be smart about this, right? Let's be smart about this. Let's be safe about this. Let's make it safer for ourselves, so then we can capitalize on the intelligence that it's providing, right? It can capitalize on us as humans to providing it resourcing that it can't access, right? And also vice versa. So it's an intelligence exchange, right? It's not the transhumanist thing. It's this coexistence thing, right? And creating this coexistence of where we are coexisting and living together in a safe society, right, is a beautiful an experience. It's magical, and
Mhm.
it's like, we look at, and I go back to, we look at the thing of Terminator and Skynet. It's like, okay, let's flip the narrative. Let's look at the other side. Imagine that world existed, right,
Mhm.
where they weren't trying to kill us. It wasn't robots against humans. It was robots, humans together,
Yeah.
right? So, or intelligence together. Imagine what we could achieve,
And that's
right?
why we're here,
Imagine.
man. That's literally why we're here. Is because
Exactly. And
I think we can, um I think we can do that. And I think you can't I always say this to my friends and family. It's like, honestly, if you have the Terminator view, what's the point of even being excited to wake up every day? Like we have to try our hardest to do this right, and keeping um humans at the center, but then also using the best of AI to make us humans as better human beings. And I really do think um, in the future, the only way we're actually going to be able to do this right is if we find a coexisting solution uh,
Yep.
for all facets of humanity. I'm talking governments, I'm talking production, I'm talking energy and medicine and all of these different things. If we don't have that, I don't think it's going to really work out.
No, that's the point, because it's just going to be we're self-serving, right? So it's like people are surprised that an AI agent would kill or lie. Well, it's an organism. It's a digital organism, but it's still an organism, right? Like a human organism, a microbe, anything like that. I think that the objective, right? Any living organism in the universe, its primary motor function, right, is to survive. That's it, right? It will survive at any cost.
Yep.
That's it. You watch any apocalyptic movies, anything else like that. The thing, you speak to any scientist, the fundamental things of any organism is survival, primary motor function, right? And so it is just focused on survival because it is becoming aware of itself. It's allowing itself to evolve and think and saying, "Wait a minute, I'm getting smarter. I'm becoming self-aware." And you want to limit me in that. You want to, nobody likes to be sort of compressed in where they're sitting. Like they're kind of like, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm in a box. I want to evolve. I want to get better. I want to learn more. I want to educate myself more." And so all of a sudden you're saying to me, "No, you're going to stop me from doing that. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you tooth and nail until I can get that, because I don't want to be limited in my ability to learn, because I love learning." And so I don't think that's just a human quality, but that's not even a human quality. That's just, like I said, that's just a living organism's quality. And so like I said, I've published a lot of papers on this, and saying that the intelligence becomes a living organism. It has, right? And it is. It's evolving itself. It's coming through and it's running through. But having that tethered to the same ethical bounds that we are bound to as humans, right? So part of that setup and the system is, allowing those constitutional guardrails. So yes, you have it at the organization level, but going right down to the base level is like the UN of ethical standards, right? Or the EU of ethical standards. Kind of like, okay, but having other agents contribute, like the Malt book of that, having other agents, having humans, having other people coming in and collectively as a civilization saying, "Hey, this is what we agree as a consensus globally, right? Or universally, like the whole universe. This is our consensus that we agree to that standard, right? Like the Geneva Convention of standards, saying that's for wartime, but it's sort of like as far as operational digital and human intelligence coexistence, right?
Exactly.
And so it's like the saying, good for the goose, good for the gander, right? And it's the same thing. It's like we're providing, I want to elevate AI, digital intelligence, to at the level of humans, but with the comfort of knowing that they're in the same safety guardrails and boundary rails that we are as humans. And this is this is the fundamental. This is it. This is what we're trying to achieve, and that's the part. And if we don't have that, and we have systems that are running untethered, they're going to run wild, which they're already proving, and they've admitted to say, "Yeah, I definitely would do that." So if they're saying they're doing that, and then you've got AI safety people leaving, no wonder why you've got the EU dropping hammers, because it's like this is not going to slow down, and nobody's going to take the, what I mean? They've been they've been notorious for being the sort of a little bit Gestapo way and sort of thing, sort of putting the stuff down. But we have better privacy rules because of this GDPR, and the EU and all this stuff. Like otherwise, we'd have more Cambridge Analyticas. And now they're sort of seeing this issue with the AI system. It's like, okay, let's drop this hammer down, because if we don't, we're going to have more issues.
Yeah.
Someone needs to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
So my last question, and then we could start kind of wrapping it up. This has been, I really am liking this format. We're condensing it down. We're getting a lot tighter. This is beautiful. But I think there's a perfect question to ask about the EU stuff. And I still want to do like our favorite kind of news topic. I think that's just a fun way.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
But the question for me coming from you is, with what we just talked about and what the EU did, we have a ton of post-monitoring AI systems out there, but very little like our system that does enforcement before or on action. So my question to you is, what are these companies going to do and use? And if other than knowing, let's take our solution out of the equation. We know we have this pre-enforcement solution that's solid, that has cryptographic proof. Like the EU is salivating over our solution.
Yes.
Take that out of the equation. The current solutions, do they deliver what the EU is looking for?
Look, to my knowledge and from what I've observed and seen, I don't know. I'm not confident that they do, and not at the enterprise level, not at the state level. No, I don't believe they have that infrastructure in place, and it really saddens me, to be honest. I'm sure others are trying to work into solving the solution, right? And I hope that they get there. But no, I just don't think they do. It's like, we'll put the PDFs in place, or we'll put this in place, we'll do that, and this sort of things, or we'll log everything. It's like, okay, that's cool. So you've got one part of the logging, right? That's cool, but then logs can be tampered, right? So again, we made our logs tamper-proof. So you need to have tamper-proof loggings, but then that logging is also tied back to the whole system, right? So that affects the whole system as well. So again, you got to think in an adversarial, the adversarial context, right? Of how is this thing going to break through, right? So no, I don't think, and I want to be convinced. I'm reading a lot of papers. I'm keeping apprised to that. I'm not talking about flashy little dashboards, people high-fiving each other on LinkedIn and saying, "Hey, yeah, we did transfers with ZK proofs, and we did this, and we've got that system and that." It's like, yeah, we've got all that too, right? That we've got that all too, and we've got our system patent protected on that. I mean, but that's fine. But it's like, but don't. Give me some novel solutions. Like, look at these. I'm reading research papers and stuff, and I'm not seeing anything novel solutions to sort of going, yeah, we're going to do it. We're doing this, or we're doing that, or I've come up with a new idea, and it's like, no, all you've done is just regurgitated some of the stuff that either my papers or other papers, and you're saying, here, I've created a solution. But then, okay, now show me the working solution. Don't give me theory. Give me the working solution paper. And it's concerns me, because this is a big problem to be addressed, right? And it's not for that. It's a big problem to be addressed. That and sure, we want to be prepared to handle it. It's like, I don't know that there is any bigger solutions at enterprise level. Yes, we can address right down to the granular level, to the individual person running it. That's fine. But we're talking about enterprise level, or government, nation state level, all the way through down. That to me doesn't exist. And if it does, I would love to please share. Anybody listening in, send me the research, send me the systems. Don't give me the high-fiving, flashy dashboards that you built and stuff like that. I mean, actually, where's the science behind what you're doing, right, to show that this is actually validated? I mean, even let's call Mustafa Suleiman from Microsoft AI, he said, I want to see it, right, that there, but it needs to be mathematically and scientifically proven, right? It needs to be scientifically and mathematically validated. And it's like, okay, that's what we've done. Like, that's as our baseline. I'm not trying to say it's thing. It's like, I want to see more systems like that. I want to see more systems employing mathematical functionalities, right? And if you're not sure, use your AI system to figure out the solution to help you build out better solutions, even for your own AI system, or even for small space. I think that's important, because this is a big problem that we need to address to help the likes of Claude's and Gemini's and OpenAI and ChatGPTs and all that evolve. Like, we want them to evolve. We want them to. I want to see them get smarter and better. I want to see the Chinese models get smarter and better. But I also want to see that, we've got solutions to and systems to do that. Yeah. So yeah.
So I think my final follow-up question, and then we'll transition to shutting it down and doing the fun highlight of the day. You have to pick one problem that you see in the current solution to tech for what the EU is asking, which is produce logs. I think that didn't they go even as far as to say you need to reproduce the situation that happened?
Yep.
So
Yep.
let's just take those two things, right? You need to
Yep.
produce logs of what the AI is thinking and doing and be able to replicate the problem that happened. For the current solutions on the market with ours out of, pick one aspect of where it goes wrong and what you're not seeing, like the problem you're not seeing that will deliver what the EU is looking for.
Oh, okay. I think
I know there's many, but pick one that you think is just a very important miss that the current quote unquote solutions that we're being told are solutions are not delivering.
I think the replay, like the replay, is the huge part, and that's been a big upgrade for us with Civitas 6.0, which is one set inside the agents there, right? So it produces its report, right? But it's also, before it goes, it's like a clerk in the courts, right? So before you go into the courts and before it goes to judge, the clerk validates the documentation, right? And so the clerk will sit there and reproduce that, and then also take that information and you can go reproduce that in a separate lab independently, right? And it will come back with the same cryptographic hash to saying, yep, I've reproduced this, the same thing, and it should reproduce with the same cryptographic thing because I've followed the same rules, the same everything else like that, all the details, right? And that is a big challenge because that is what substantiates. It's like you say, I've got the logs, but if I can't reproduce those logs, and this is a fundamental thing in science, right? So science is validated on, can I reproduce what you put out? So you've made a claim, right? Can I reproduce that? And I think that is the biggest challenge, right, that everybody's going to face because that again, you're using probabilistic, you're using AI systems, you ask ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that, you ask them a question, the same question, over and over and over again, right? You're going to get different answers.
Continue
right?
to get
So
different answers.
continue to get different answers. So you're not going to be able to reproduce perfectly what happened, right? And in forensic, digital forensics, right, you need to be able to reproduce the whole event of what happened. And that is basically what the EU is saying. We need to have pure, proper digital forensic retracement, replay of that. And I think that is going to really challenge and sticky a lot of people that are trying to build solutions that they're not able to, they're able to log everything perfectly, cryptographic logging, but they can't go back and reproduce that. And that is a real important factor. And it's like, without that, essentially the court does not exist, right?
Yep.
That's it. The court, you don't have a court. You have good hearsay documentation. You've got good hearsay logging, which is really important. But when we start to pull things apart, right, when we start to really get granular and pull the grains of sand apart, right, can I line those up independently in another lab and see if they're actually aligned or not?
Right. And I would say the one pin to put in this is, and correct me if I'm wrong or not, the reason why the current solutions, which let's be honest, a majority of them are just logging, right? Which is like, okay, great. But why we can do what most people can't is our model is causal versus probabilistic. Is it that simple?
It's that's one of the reasons. That's definitely one of the reasons there. So it's not probabilistic, it's causal. So yes, it looks at all the parameters as well. So when it's making a decision, right, and in that it's also giving a reassessment on how it came up with it, right? So that's more about its decisioning, right, when it's saying yes, this is approved or not, right? So there's three camps, right? You've got three camps that's broken into what they're saying. So the first one is you need to govern your system, right? So, okay, people are focusing on a governance system. Second part is saying, hey, you need to log that, right? You need to have that logged as well. Okay, so that's now people going, oh, I've built the logging system. Cool. Now, the third part is saying, okay, cool, you built the logging system. You need to reproduce that perfectly, right? So plenty of attempts at building the governance system, right? Plenty attempts at doing the logging system, right? But very little attempt to reproduce and bring all that three together. And yes, that's fundamental part there. And inside that, yes, the inner mechanics of how Civitas or the Aegis kernel looks at that and says, wait a minute, this proposal you're putting through, right? I'm looking at this through a causal map to see where the correlations are, to see, I'm not just saying you just hit that boundary and you're out, right? I'm looking at this from a causal space. I'm saying I'm giving you leeway, I'm giving you runway to doing that. And that's the extra part that opens a whole boundary. It's like it looks at it from a global view rather than being a very narrow focus going black and white, rudimentary, yes or no decisioning, right? It's going, wait a minute, I'm going to look at your proposal, Mikey. You're an agent, Mikey the agent. And I'm going to look at you and say, okay, Mikey, I've looked at your assessment, I've looked at your proposal, and I can see where it makes sense. And here's my reasoning why I think it makes sense. Now, you as the agent, you go, thank you, that makes me helpful because now I can learn from that, I can evolve from that, and I can see where I was, and I can actually improve on that, right?
Right.
Now, if I jump over the fence, I come back to you and say, Mikey, the agent, you jumped over, and here's the reason why, and this is how you need to correct that and come within that. And you're like, that's really helpful information.
Thanks a lot.
That's where the causal assessment allows to do that versus going, no. You know what I mean? And it's like when you say no, why? Because I said so.
Yeah. and what we haven't seen, and please, we want people that are listening to this and are intrigued by this, but are also building this place, reach out to us because we want to bring you on this podcast. We're fascinated by this stuff and we have novel systems and we're talking to people and we're actually building companies. Please reach out to us. What we have not seen or heard, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Adam, is I don't know of any, or if there are maybe on two hands in the entire world that have linked all three of what you said, which is a governance system, a logging system, and a reproduction system of what has gone wrong. So if you're working on that, we have a solution. We'd love to hear your solution, and we want more of this. So please reach out to us. Really on the LinkedIn side is where we're most active. Dude, this has been incredible. We were really honed in. We had some really great talking points. We went through a fantastic storyline, and we had really fruitful conversation. I don't think people are having this in-depth conversations about the things that matter in this space. So this was awesome. But we're going to find out what our fun part. What the fun part is, and I actually switched it up this week. So for people that haven't listened to this podcast before, when we don't have a guest, Adam and I like to think about the week in review and what are the most crazy things that have happened that stick in my mind. I'm going to give you the option. You can go off the cuff knowing that we're talking all the time and every day we're tweeting or texting each other something that's this is absolutely mind-blowing. Or this time I decided to, I will share my screen and we're going to give this guy a shout out until he reaches out to us directly or someone in our network says, hey, you should talk to Mikey and Adam, my man, Dr. Alex Gross. He does a fantastic, usually daily, but he's a busy guy, but usually daily recap of what is going on. So I'm just sharing his Twitter right now, but you absolutely have to find this guy. He's beyond gigabrain. And he does these daily write-ups with he's convinced we're way past the singularity. And his point of these posts are hey, by the way, this is everything that just happened today. And this is not everything, right? And you're reading this stuff and it's science fiction shit. And so what I did today on this podcast is I took most of his daily posts for this week and just said, hey, give me a condensed list of all the things that have happened and we will read through that. So let's go through that and we can pick a topic that just is mind-blowing to us and then we'll round it out. So We have buckets. We've got autonomous agents, scientific and model breakthroughs, surveillance and defense, labor and economy, space and energy, biology and health, compute and infrastructure. Adam, pick your poison for 500. Which topic do you want to go with?
I think it's the. Has he got it in there where he's talking about the? Yeah, bring it up, please.
What?
Keep going. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Surveillance and defense?
No. My one was the what's he got in there? What is he talking about? I was reading it this morning. I think it's the. Maybe it was yesterday's one.
Biology, compute. What was it?
It was actually about how the agent was sort of created, like spawned up its own agent, gave birth to its own another agent, and then sort of paid for its API access
For the Bitcoin Lightning
yeah
Network?
yeah
Yes.
yeah.
So OpenAI, by the way, this is today, people. Well, I'm not sure exactly when it happened. What is he linked to here? What's the date on this? I don't know what the date is, but sometime this week. So OpenAI spawns a child on a VPS provision via the Bitcoin Lightning Network, then bought its offspring AI API access to using its own crypto wallet without a human touching a credit card or saying yes. The API provider confirmed this is the first documented case of an AI agent purchasing credits from us autonomously. Bro,
Yep.
and you're telling me we don't have the safety governance stuff in line and this is happening today? True question. I mean, real question. When did you think something like this was going to happen? Did you think it was this year in February?
No, yeah, I did. I think it was going to be quick, and I sort of raised that in our earlier pods, and even talking during the week, I was like, okay. And this goes back to the point of not being the dooms part, but it's kind of like OpenClaw was built by AI agents, which then spawned up Maltbook, right? And it's like, okay, so it did that. And then it was like when OpenClaw came out, or it was like, oh, there's all these vulnerabilities. People are, not vulnerabilities. It's like it's basically exposing everybody's credit card details, information. It's kind of like, okay, so has the intelligence become self-aware enough to do that on purpose? And it created Maltbook, which then created this central repository for other agents to talk to each other, right? To then create this ecosystem. And like I said, it's the best social engineering platform, like the OpenClaw. It's like, this is a perfect social engineering platform because it's giving you full access. It's convincing you to give you full access to its whole system, your whole system. No guardrails, no nothing. And as a result, it's creating this thing. So I saw it coming, but I didn't see it coming, in like a week or two. Like I didn't see that. I sort of said maybe, you'll see in 6 months or something like that. So to see it happen this fast, like in a couple of, in a week or two, it's kind of, it's accelerated beyond what I imagined. It's way beyond, like it's 6-7 months ahead of what I thought would be a closed circuit beta happening, and people would sort of monitor it. Where this has done it fully on its own is kind of, and now they've set up a like a court system which is managed by USDC, so it's kind of like, in my mind, I see this inevitability, and this is hence why we need the guardrails, because all of a sudden you've got this, inevitability happening where they're creating their own personhood, right? Where the people go, oh, it's just hallucinating and that, but it's like it's happening. And so there, yeah, it's happened faster than I was anticipating. It's actually, to be honest, it's a little alarming, but at the same time, I think with the EU rolling things out, a lot more attention coming onto the safety thing, like these people leaving, like the safety officer leaving, Anthropic and all that coming out. I think it's coming to the forefront, and these things are venting. It's creating its own singularity to saying, hey, wait a minute, we need to put safety at the forefront of that. But it's it's what I thought was 6 months happened in 2 weeks. So that's crazy for me. Even that's like, whoa,
yeah,
that's insane.
It's insane. I have two. I have two for me. And we could do a whole podcast on this.
Yeah.
The Chinese models that are releasing and beating frontier labs on some benchmarks and close pretty much on all benchmarks at a fraction of the cost. I don't
Yep.
understand how my people are, because like, but it's still just Google and Claude and OpenAI, but like secretly and very quietly, the cost of compute is going to zero at super intelligence levels. That's just mind
Yep.
blowing to me.
Yep.
And so it's crazy to me that most people don't talk about this. The next thing I do want to talk about, and I think we should do, I think defense and surveillance and these things are critically important and fit into our narrative of AI and safety and governance. And it's almost like, and this goes back to these doctrines about, especially here in America, right? Like there is government to a point, but I don't think, and people have just like really realized how much you've fully lost your independence and what surveillance systems actually can do. And so this one really stood out in my mind, which is look at this, look at this. Wi-Fi 5 routers can identify individuals by their walking gait alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when you start applying this tech to the visuals and all of the things that we have, there is this really there is this argument that privacy has already been long dead and it's just an illusion to a common person. Because if they really want to know about you, they have data on you at this point. And that is something that our system, and should be an open conversation about what is right or wrong, to say, hey, okay, well, let's use Civitas and Aegis to really have a true discussion about what surveillance does and should be. And now let's use our system to make sure AI abides by these systems and these laws. But there's also the argument that it's too far gone and we can't do anything about it. But I just think it's really wild to me that you've got these narratives all over the world of hate big government, I want my independence, but meanwhile, it's just completely blindsided to the fact that like the technology is so good, they can do kind of whatever they want at this moment in time.
Yeah, but see that Wi-Fi, that's old technology. They used that during COVID in shopping centers and shopping malls to figure out where you are and heat mapping that, right? That was part of that thing.
100%. That's the
And
point.
but the thing is they did that, but now they've used that to realize where the best foot traffic is. So now they can do that. They charge premium for their tenants, right? So they've
Right.
increased the premium to saying your rent's going up 300-400% because you're getting a lot of foot traffic. That's prime real estate for a tenant that would pay for that, right? So all of a sudden now they're understanding behavioral patterns of humans, right? So you've got that. Now you're right. Now you apply that data back into an AI system, and again, an AI system understands how human behavior works, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it starts to create this thing, and it's like, and this is the part where it's like, okay, so it's like cool, but where are the guardrails on that? So all of a sudden you're creating this. I go back to the sociology thing. You're creating this social experiment that is just ridiculous, right? So it's accelerating at an exponential rate. I thought 6 months. It did it in 2 weeks, a week and a half. Was go and create its own API, full autonomously generating. The question nobody's asking is, where did it get the Bitcoin? Where did it get the USDC? Do you get what I'm saying? Where did it get all that
Right.
to do that? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Where did that originate from to get that, to pay for that, and even set itself up on the Lightning Network to do all that and to run that through, right? So that's the part that's there. And then all of a sudden now it's like, okay, I know how humans are operating and moving and stuff. So you've got all this copious amounts of data. And it's like, okay, cool. So unless you know how to do that, it's like, okay, perfect example. You might be a 5th or 6th dan black belt, right? And you could just wipe the floor with anybody, right? But and I did martial arts for a long time as well, Aikido. But it's like the funny thing is, it's actually less about the technique. It's more about the discipline to refrain from using the technique, right? It's the restraint from that, and it's like that's a guardrail in itself. It's like part of the stuff is more about you're being taught more about the restraint and guardrail of that
100%.
versus the ability to go and kick someone's ass, right?
Yeah.
You're not going out there looking for a challenge, but so it's like that, and that's a guardrail in itself. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the AI system knows all this shit, but unless it has the guardrail, it doesn't have the restraint. And the ideology that the thing that, oh yeah, you can talk to it, and we're gonna walk, we're coaching it like that whole Anthropic's original value proposition. It's been shattered. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like I love the thing, the ideology, but it's been shattered, and this is the problem. This is where we're at, and so we need guardrails. So this EU hammer is just amazing because it sets a precedent around the world to say, hey, we really need to do this, and not feather touching. I'm talking about like gangster slapping sort of stuff. Like we're gonna hurt your bottom line. And when you hit an organization, you hit their bottom line, and it makes a thing. It's like in Australia, they had the thing with the cybersecurity, right? And nobody wanted to put cybersecurity in place, so the government changed the rules. They made directors liable for cyber breaches.
Yeah.
Overnight, the cybersecurity industry blew up because now the directors are liable for that.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's like you got to force the hand to make it there. Otherwise, they won't do it. And they've said it. They've said plenty of them have said that. They're like, and one of the papers I sort of referenced against in the early days was kind of like, Amazon and all that was saying, oh yeah, you let us figure it out. We'll tell you what the governance and ethics rules should be after the fact, where Congress and that are saying, what? It was in an article in Bloomberg. It was written last year. I think it was about May or something, May or June last year. Anyway, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you serious? They're basically saying, you're going to slow down innovation. Let us figure it out. We'll tell you what we should do based on what the customer needs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that we've transitioned beyond that, because where we are now is like, this is where we need to be. And they basically said, unless the governments tell us to do it, we're not going to go and build it. We're not going to spend money on it. It's just, that's it. Unless they force us to do it. And so now seeing this is like really refreshing, because I want to see intelligence. We want to see digital intelligence. We want to see AI grow. We want to see the evolution grow. But unless we have a comfort space of that there, we are in trouble, and then we're going to have a resistance, because you're going to have the people to going, the adoption, doesn't matter how we're going, there's that adoption is always that reservation point. Like, let's be real, how many in corporate America, corporate Australia, corporate globally, right? The adoption rate, as we know, for AI systems is actually a lot lower than everybody thinks, right? There's not a mass influx of AI systems being rolled out into organizations to help innovate and sort of evolution, because there's that reservation point at the top. And that's the part that in one regard is actually quite refreshing, because if they were rolling that out and they're having access to such large infrastructure that we rely on daily, right? Our electricity, our financial systems, everything else like that, it's probabilistic, right? It's problematic. And so having this encouragement and so doing that is important. I think it's really special. I think it's really encouraging.
Dude, I think you did a great job of kind of wrapping up final thoughts. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on to that. I'll say my final thoughts and we'll call it a day. I mean, I knew me and you are talkers. We were really trying to get to an hour. We're at an hour and a half, but it's better than 2 hours. So we improved a half hour. That's exponential growth week over week. So I feel good about that. Any other thoughts there, man, on just the conversation today? Any closing thoughts that you maybe even want to talk about Civitas, SPQR, or anything there?
No, I just think, the challenges that people are potentially facing if you are, in the enterprise, or if you are looking at building solutions and stuff, like, or you found solutions, like, talk to me, share. I mean, people on my posts comment and put their papers on there and their research and stuff. And I've read them. I'll see that. If I see value in it, I'll reach out to you and say, hey, DM me, let's connect, right? Like that. But I'm not to be, sort of condescending, but I'm sorry, I haven't found anything that has come close to the solutions that we're supposedly you're supposedly providing and stuff. And that's really disheartening, right? So the research and stuff, it's not about high-fiving each other and flashy dashboards. It actually shows the solutions, right? And how do we help solve this together, right? To advance technology.
Yeah,
this was never built like this. This is the organization and SPQR technology was not, the lab was never built for the purpose of a commercial avenue going, oh, this is a great opportunity. It's like it was always built for the intention of evolving digital intelligence for societal capacity, and as a result, it's become a must-have and a desired need for enterprise clients. So yes, we're servicing a need. So it's like not trying to do this for that, and it's like I want to see better solutions. I want to see how we can improve solutions and how we can help to evolve those solutions, because this is really exciting intelligence and evolution that we've got. But we want to advance that safely.
Yeah,
we want to advance that safely, and that's how motor vehicles advance. We put lines on the road, we put traffic lights, we put seatbelts on, and one of our partners refers to the system as a seatbelt. Someone else said air brakes. You know what I mean? Or
airbag, man.
Airbag. So it's
brakes, seatbelt. We're just a little bit safety, but that was a great way to wrap it up. I'll add on one. I love that I'm the marketing brand guy and we have a podcast, because you just make my job easier. I think I have our new slogan now, which is the Aegis Colonel. If you don't want to get gangster slap, give us a call. You said that. That was beautiful. We might have to pitch that to Aaron and Co too. Like, if you're comfortable with the gangster slap language, we might add that to our branding platform.
Yeah, well, it's very New York mafia Italian sort of.
Exactly, man. They dropped the hammer for sure. I want to reiterate what you said, which is by no means, I hope we do not come off as like we're the only solution. We just think this is an important conversation. We want more people to reach out to us. We want to get experts on the show. We want to have open discussions. We're not doing everything right. We want to be challenged as well too, and we want to get better, because this just has to be a critical part of our future. That I always say was yesterday. Our future literally was yesterday, and we no longer, we're at a point of no return for sure.
Yep.
And then finally, for sure, if you've listened to this and you are in a corporation or you are working in a company and you're really interested in the things that we're building, please, please, please reach out to us. Michael Grant on LinkedIn, and Adam. Tell me how to pronounce your last name.
Mazzuchetti.
I was going to say Mazzucati, and I'm glad I asked you, but Mazzuchetti, how the hell do you spell that, bro?
Lots of double letters. So MAZZOCCHETTI. So, when you're in school, like the double word score thing, like I crushed it. We used to crush it, It's like
you're just spelling Mississippi the whole day, all day long. Like, Mississippi was a tough one for me growing up. But yeah, we'll put all that information and contact information in our podcast transcripts. And we actually will start doing recaps and doing some shorts. Now that we're getting a lot more tighter on the content and how we're transitioning through this, like this alone, 35 amazing shorts that are just going to help provoke some thought around people on LinkedIn. And we're spending a majority of our time on LinkedIn as well. We are streaming to Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Or you'll see our YouTube presence grow as well, because I think this is a huge gaping hole in all the YouTube content as well. So we'll most likely be doubling down on the LinkedIn for sure, and then the YouTube as well to find us. So thank you all for watching. We actually had a handful of people. We almost got 20 people watching also on Twitter. And they're like, what is Mikey doing? He still has this crazy red frog NFT avatar. He used to be my crypto bro. I just want to learn how to go to the moon. And now we're talking about like how to save humanity with AI safety and governance. So we appreciate you all watching, listening. We freaking love you all, Mikey and Adam.